all, this is just an overview of how a managed AI system would, look like, right from its governance and commitment, planning, risk management, support, operations, performance evaluation, controls, as well as the AI development, internal auditing of AI, right? All of that will be typically take care of as an overview of the system components for an AI system that we would typically need as per 42001, guys. So these are the typical AI management processes that are involved, and we'll move to Gen AI within the same, guys. Now, generative AI is really controversial these days if you talk about, and there are so much biased opinions on generative AI. So let's understand, guys, firstly what is generative AI. Now, one good example of generative AI you can think of is Chat GPT. That you give your input, and then based on your input, you get the output. And that output could be data, it could be text, it could be images, it could be videos, etc. So, generative AI is all about getting a feedback or getting an output depending on the input that you provide to a system. Let's say I simply note down as risk assessment, right? Now, when I type just two keywords as risk assessment, okay, the amount of output that I'm going to get from generative AI tools would be beginning from, what is risk assessment, what are some of the steps to implement a risk assessment process, how a risk assessment could be done, right? You will see n number of information. So generative AI typically focuses on giving you an output of the input that you give. Okay. And this output is something which will be highly dependent on how this generative AI software has been created. Now, let's take an example that I create a generative AI software keeping an IT industry or an IT company in mind, right? Now, IT company would have major consultants, would have major consulting projects. IT companies would have, got clients from overseas, would have got clients from n number of different geographies and region, but it would be all associated with IT, right? It would typically follow ITI life cycle and so forth. Now, when I use an AI system for an IT company, okay, I would expect that this AI system gives me output of risk assessment, of risk procedure, or documentation, processes, policies, everything in alignment with an IT company or an IT organization. I am not looking for an output that how would a process or risk assessment work for a defense sector or for a chemical industry or for a manufacturing firm or for an automobile company. My output or my expectation from this generative AI system is to give me the corrected output from an IT perspective, from an information technology company perspective. That if I were to prepare a policy for an IT company, then how would an ideal policy look like, and which are some of the core steps and expectation in terms of processes that needs to be included. I'm expecting that. So generative AI will all be dependent on the inputs that we give, guys. Right. So if I have like a data of past 15 years, past 20 years from, a particular industry, and if I just feed into that particular AI system, right, then based on that data, what I have given of past 20 years, based on that data only, I'm going to get the output. Correct. Now if I say that, okay, this AI system is very generic and this AI system can be used across multiple companies, across multiple organizations, right, I need to do a fact check that if that data of past 20 years includes how many industries, how many segments, how many sectors, how many languages, how many geographies, how many, regions, I have to look at that data. Because if a data has been captured keeping in mind just one geography and just one segment, my output is going to be very, very biased, guys. This is exactly what Gen AI, is all about, guys, that we have to keep in mind that whenever we are preparing these models or whenever we are preparing these kinds of structures, we have to ensure that what kind of data we are feeding into these AI systems, and accordingly how we are getting the output. So what these gen AI systems would be do is they would even generate some data, guys. Okay, like if I've given some sample blog posts, some sample emails, right, they would transform them according to, multiple data injection or data that you have given, and then they will give you a nice template as an output, that this is an ideal template that you should use. And then depending on more and more keywords, okay, that people use within this gen AI, and then more and more questions they get across, right, all of these data would be transformed, all of these data would be matured. So these tools and these systems keep maturing depending on the keywords, depending on the input that we keep feeding to the system. So that whole mechanism of enriching the data, transforming the data would be done by typical AI engineers and typical AI officers, right, who are skilled with data science, data learning, machine learning algorithms, etc. Guys, these guys will work as technical consultants of all of these generative AI. Correct. So Gen AI, guys, is all about this. I hope you guys got an understanding about the AI side.